Well, here we are. Welcome back, everybody. Today is Thursday, November 12th. I'm Trey Crowder. That's Mark Agee. What's up, Mark?
What's up, Trey? How's it going?
We got producer Matt behind the scenes pulling the strings as always, and this is Evening Skews. Got a good show for you tonight. We're going to talk about the new Fox News. If you guys didn't know there was a new Fox News, well, there is one, and you never believe this. It's even dumber. We're also going to talk about the current state of Trump's concession. Will he? Won't he? Who's to say? Certainly not us, but we will pontificate about it. Maybe we'll get into some COVID talk and some other miscellaneous fun topics for y'all, and then we go to the comments as always, and it's going to be a good time. But first, as always, we begin with the Daily Dumbass. Producer Matt, let's hit it. So, as has been the case in many of our recent episodes, there were numerous potential nominees for the Daily Dumbassery, but there can be only one. And tonight, the official Evening Skews Daily Dumbass is anyone on the left who casually disregarded allegations of voter fraud in this country, particularly in states like Michigan, without first considering sandwich vans. What does that mean? Well, I couldn't possibly describe it, so we'll go directly to Trump administration whistleblower Melissa Caroni, who had this to say on Fox News on the subject.
The city provides the workers with food for their shift. Well, they only had enough food for 1/3 of their workers.
Oh boy.
So that is the reason why they were claiming that these vans were brought in. But these vans did not have food taken out of them.
And the vans that showed up, they were supposed to be filled with food. What did they have in them? Do you know?
I never saw anything being brought out of the vans. I know that whatever was being brought out of the vans was being brought out of the back of the vans, but I was not allowed over in that area.
So, as a Midwesterner, I have a lot of experience with sandwich vans. I know the exact amount of vans it takes to feed X amount of people, and these vans were clearly not sandwich vans. Okay, I assume they were ballot vans. Perhaps they had illegal immigrants in them. I'm not sure, but what they did not have was sandwiches. Ergo, voter fraud. Clearly, Donald Trump remains the president for 4 years.
Case closed, buddy.
You heard it here first.
This is so funny for a lot of reasons, but you remember that famous scene in Office Space when they're cutting their birthday cake? And the nerdy guy, I can't remember the character's name, the one who steals a stapler at the end. He keeps passing cake, and there's no cake, and he's furious, and that's basically why he decides to burn down the building with all his coworkers.
Yeah.
This is essentially her being like, "I didn't get my sandwich."
Yeah.
Therefore, Antifa's behind
it. Like, I assume there were no sandwiches in those vans since I did not receive a sandwich. But I don't. What is what is this supposed? I saw some vans pull up after there had been a food shortage. I didn't see sandwiches come out of those vans. I didn't see it, although I do admit I was not allowed in the sandwich van area. But from afar, with my gaze, I did not observe sandwiches coming out of these vans, and therefore, Donald Trump's the president. That's pretty much it, right? That's the whole thing.
Yeah, it's like the old thing about absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence or whatever. It's like that, but like with sandwiches. And I can't. But the steps of this, like she got vetted by Lou Dobbs' people, right? Somebody interviewed her and said, so the American people have to hear this. I mean, as much as it seems like Fox News just had a sign-up sheet you can go on and say whatever nonsense you want. Like Dolly Ingraham, I think I sent you the video clip of her. They disguised that woman's voice and like she was deep throat and interviewed her live on the air about, I forget what she claims to have seen, but it was ridiculous.
She saw Laura Ingraham. They had a deep throat, like that classic. They are a silhouette. You can't see anything about them other than they're a silhouette, and their voice is being modified. And they said they saw someone get like thrown up against a Biden-Harris van or something like that, where they were like just piling ballots out the back of it or some shit. Because, like, of course, you're going to have the illegal voter fraud, the illegal ballot van. You're gonna put the official campaign slogan and logo and designation across the outside of it. But yeah, they did the whole interview deep throat style and everything, and that's not the only one they've done either. They've had a number of people on Fox News this week in that deep throat style of interviewing, and all of them have sandwich van equivalent stories to tell. But I guess some of them, they're not willing to put their face on it.
When you're up to no good, you really want to write doing crimes on the side of your van, like it's like the Mystery Machine from Scooby-Doo.
Right.
Get down to. These people, well, at least they make a little relieved that they think that's how crime works. They probably aren't committing a lot of them. That's good.
Yeah. All right. Well, so we've got, as usual, we have some honorable mentions for you for the Daily Dumbassery. The first on the list of honorable mentions is Senator Rand Paul, who has a firm grasp of how COVID should be treated in this country moving forward. Matt, play the clip.
Protecting them. But the other thing is we have 11 million people in our country who have already had COVID. We should tell them to celebrate. We should tell them to throw away their masks, go to restaurants, live again, because these people are now immune. But Dr. Fauci doesn't want to admit to any of that. Dr. Fauci's like, oh, woe is me, until the election occurs, and now maybe he'll be changing his attitude. But the bottom line is there's a great...
Well, there you have it, Mark. We should be having a I didn't die party nationwide in this country. I got it and didn't die. My aunt did, but I'm here for Taco Tuesday.
You gotta, it's endless appetizer night, buddy. So Rand Paul, first of all, is a doctor. And
apparently.
He went to Duke. He went to Duke Medical School, right? By the way, Duke turned out Richard Spencer, Stephen Miller, and Rand Paul, so they should probably take a few years off from basketball and focus on some other shit. He went to Duke Medical School. He also had COVID, so he knows what he's saying is bullshit. There's no people have gotten COVID twice. It looks like nobody knows anything right now. It's a novel disease. It's fucking wild, but like he knows. He knows the research shows that it's definitely possible you can get it twice, so they're not immune as it were. Also, fun little Rand Paul tidbit: he created his own board to certify himself as an ophthalmologist.
Right, which is the most Republican senator thing in the history of Republican senators.
Yeah, I know you could do that, Trey. I'm gonna create my own.
Well, you can't. You can't unless you're in a position like he is in, but.
It's not like
also
getting ordained online. I can't just send $15 off and become an ophthalmologist.
The other thing about this clip is that it sort of sums up that general mentality that their side seems to have about COVID, which is like, if you are fine, fuck everyone else. Do you know what I mean? Like the reason they hate, or like with masks, they refuse to wear masks. Because it doesn't protect you from the virus. And it's like no one is saying, no one has ever said that wearing the mask is for your benefit. It helps everyone else. So if everyone helps a mask, or everyone wears a mask, then that helps everyone else out. But they just can't see the logic in that. And this kind of like sums it up. Where it's like if you are okay, which as you already said, there's no reason to believe that that's actually true either, that you're completely all right if you've had COVID and survived it. But either way, if you are okay, then fucking throw a party. Who gives a fuck about everybody else? Get out there, do your thing.
It just makes the misery. It's like a metaphor for like teaching people delayed gratification, right? Because you can go to that party, but the pandemic's gonna be longer, right?
Right.
So you can go to Cheat Cheese if you want, get your fried ice cream, but it's just gonna like I heard the interview with this lady who was very upset the president lost his election, and her small business had went under, and her kids are super depressed sitting at home, and all that is terrible. I empathize with her, but she's blaming like your small business would have went under anyway because the 70% of people who don't want to get it, you can't drag them into your business. Do you know what I'm saying? You can't make people go to movies and in restaurants and shit. So you go to the CC's Pizza Buffet or what. You're going to be there, want 5 people in there, and CC's Pizza is going to go out of business. So I don't know. It's just all very stupid. They want to drag everybody into stupid with them. Is I guess the strategy.
So, speaking of dragging people into stupidity and COVID, our other Daily Dumbassery nominee is the passengers aboard the first cruise ship to sail the Caribbean since the beginning of the pandemic. That happened, if you guys missed it. Sea Dream 1 set sail from Barbados on Saturday for a 7-night voyage. 4 days into said voyage, guests were told that a passenger had tested positive for the virus. Now, Mark, listen, because I imagine we're going to get into some anti-cruise ship rhetoric here. I just want to throw out there, as a white trash American, I have been on multiple cruises, 3 of them, in fact. And so I feel like I can say that getting coronavirus on a cruise ship is like the 3rd least entertaining thing that could happen to you. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what you were expecting to happen on the first pandemic cruise ship, but getting the virus is near the top.
I've never been on a cruise myself, so I can only hypothesize. And from how urgently people wanted to get back on cruise ships to catch COVID, it must be the most amazing experience. And I've always assumed
it's not. It's not.
I mean, I've been very similar.
It's one of those things that like seems cool if if you're a white trash American like I am, but then you get out there and you're like stuck on this boat with all these other Walmarters the whole time and eating the same stuff they tell you is prime rib, which is really like beef roast or something like that. It's probably not even beef. I don't know what they put in there. But yeah, and then the comedy shows, the like Jeopardy games they play, R.I.P. Alex Trebek, by the way, and all of that is all just to distract you from the fact that you're stuck on a boat in the middle of the ocean with, all of your aunts that you grew up with, basically. And again, I didn't just go on 1. I've been on 3. I chose to go back. And honestly, I had a really good time. I'm sitting here shitting on it because I'm just trying to make jokes, but I had fun because that's what they're there for. Me and my wife got drugged on one of the cruises we went on. That's a fun fact. That is actually true. Actually, a lot of people that were with us think that we just got really drunk, but no, that's not what happened. I've been drunk plenty of times. We got doped with something, and it came out way later that I think it was Playa del Carmen we were in Mexico, and the area we were in, it was in the news later that they had tainted alcohol they were serving to tourists. And I think that's what we got a hold of. But either way, if it hadn't been for my brother and sister-in-law, I guess me and Katie would be in Playa del Carmen to this day because we drank these specialty margaritas, which were in like a Kool-Aid pitcher. So, like, it's legit. Yeah. And I was totally fine before I drank the margarita. And then next thing I know, I woke up 8 hours later in the fetal position in our cabin. So yeah, I'm just saying there's a lot of dangers when you go on one of these cruises, and now you just add COVID to the list, and it's like just another box you can check on your big Caribbean cruise you go on.
This is how I learned you're a higher level of white trash than I am, because we couldn't afford big fancy cruises when I was a kid. Plus, I think my dad probably wouldn't.
I'm not talking about when I was a kid. See, that's what this was all. 2 of them were my ex-girlfriend, my college girlfriend, who's on Parler now. Check her out on Parler. And then the 3rd one was with my now wife and her sister and them. And that was all like in my head, because I grew up like you did. In my head, like cruises were like fancy people shit. So when I got in college and was able to, people were like, yeah, we can go on a cruise for whatever amount of money. I was like, ooh, look at us.
Yeah.
Out here, you know,
I mean,
out here doing the thing. But now I
what
know
about
that's,
cruises was from Gilligan's Island. I was like, oh, millionaires go on cruises, you know?
yeah.
All
right.
I always thought everything I know about cruises learned from Lifetime movies, where you do is you take your new wife on a cruise so you can shove her over the edge of international water.
Yeah. So we mentioned Parler. We mentioned my ex-girlfriend being on Parler, which is true. We talked about Parler at length on Tuesday, and I put out a liberal redneck video about Parler on Tuesday. But in both instances, we neglected to mention something that has since become one of my favorite facts about Parler, which I did not know at the time, but have since found out about, which is, if you all don't know, and again, self-parody, I'm aware, but I promise you this is true. On Parler, instead of retweeting something, like the equivalent of retweeting something, is called echoing. You echo things you agree with. And I'm not sure, but I assume instead of like forums or pages or that type of thing, they have chambers as well on Parler. So you can, echo things in your chamber where the last bastion of free speech is concerned.
Yeah. Yeah, the echoing thing is like what they like in their terminology. If you ever see people online use somebody's name and they have 3 parentheses around it, they're calling that person Jewish. That's their
okay.
You
mentioned that, but pre-show before we went on the air, I don't like. Okay, what? So you're saying if someone who isn't Jewish types out someone's name and they surround it on both sides with 3 parentheses, that's labeling that person as a Jew, and that practice is referred to as echoing, or that's an echo.
If you look at it in print, it looks like an echo, like a cartoon echo. So yeah, they've called that those echoes forever. So this is them doing a pun about their weird dumb code they invented to try to get around Twitter's speech policy.
So the reason they did it was an anti-Semitic pun, you're saying. That was the play on words they were doing. But they did it while failing to realize that it was a very obvious self-own regarding the echo chamber nature of their platform.
Yeah.
What happened.
It's the 3 main things about the alt-right, right? They're hateful, stupid, and trying to be funny all at the same time.
Right. And lacking, and I know this is covered under the umbrella of stupid, but just lacking in self-awareness to such a degree, I don't know how that hasn't occurred to any of them. And of course, Trump is on Twitter now, Trump is on Parler now, and he's got so many, well, they're not tweets. What are they called on Parler? Fucking screeds. Slurs. He's got some Parler slurs. Anyway, where he directly says, election was stolen. Echo if you agree.
So Parler's been around for 2 years now, and there's a bunch of big mass exoduses of other social media where a bunch of people announce that they're leaving and going to Parler, and all their followers should come with them. And then they always come back because to spread your message, you need to have people that aren't already invested. You're literally preaching to just the choir. It's like so it'd be like there were no other pews in the church except for the choir. That's basically what it is. So they always
okay. So speaking of both Parler and preaching to the choir, there is a new Fox News out there, because we all know Fox News sucks now because they called Arizona early or whatever. So a lot of the hardest of the hardcore Trumpers are abandoning Fox News in an exodus, it seems like. And where are they going besides Parler? Well, there's a station for that. It's called Newsmax TV, whose viewership has exploded to the tune of 800% since the election. Now, they're still around 800,000 to 1 million viewers, but before that, it was 50,000 to 100,000 viewers on average for their primetime shows. So it's exploding currently. And I'm just wondering, Mark, and so for anybody that it's just Fox News cranked up even further. Like if you go on YouTube, if you go on Newsmax's YouTube and you click on their trending videos, I'm going to read to you the headlines of these videos with no editorializing or anything. These are just the headlines of the videos. Keep your eye on Arizona, ... and Hunter Biden. Number 2, Donald Trump made me vote Republican for the first time. Now I'm fighting for him. And that's a black Republican who's saying that from the screen grab. Number 3, Mitch McConnell calls out Democrats on the Senate floor. Number 4, Trump calls out Fox and Rick Gates reacts. Number 5, the maskless Biden jamboree continues. Number 6, you won't believe what they're doing in Pennsylvania. Number 7, fraud in Philadelphia. Number 8, Trump releases statement after Biden is projected as the winner. Number 9, Trump's legal team responds after racist call for Biden. Number 10, Kim Guilfoyle sounds off on Fox News, Democrats, and voter fraud. And then there's 30 more, and they're all equally ridiculous. So that's what Newsmax is all about. And again, they're exploding in viewership right now. So, also, I don't know, Matt, if you have a screen grab of this tweet I'm gonna throw up here. When I was reading about Newsmax earlier, it was a tweet from Alana Stewart, who is like Rod Stewart's ex-wife or something like that. But it says, I'm watching Sean Spicer's show on Newsmax right now. People like Chris Wallace on Fox News Sunday have ruined Fox News for me. I don't know what they're thinking over there, but it's sure not working. Conservatives just want fair, unbiased reporting. So there you go. That explains the explosion of Newsmax recently. Just it's more fair and more unbiased than Fox News, Mark. That's why they're going there.
Yeah, I mean, like the danger of this stuff is reality eventually asserts itself, and it becomes more painful, right? So, like for example, if you just got all your election news in 2016 from that New York Times needle that had it was like, oh, Hillary 99% chance to win. That was, of course, the people take that out of context. That was after when she was still ahead in Florida, and the needle goes like that all night. So it was just like but anyway, if you just got all your news from that needle, when she lost, you would have been like your whole reality bubble would collapse, right? Yeah. And that did kind of happen to liberals in 2016. But so you're watching, they still think Trump's going to be president January 20th.
No, they do. Yeah, 100%.
Not going to be barring the end of America. So, it's just going to be more and more painful. So I feel bad for you a little bit. Directly
related to what you're saying, there's an article on CNN Business about Newsmax, and it's written by Brian Stelter, who's a correspondent for CNN Business. And within the article, he talks about this, I don't know if you call it a theory or whatever that he's had, but he's like tracking how Donald Trump supporters are going through the 5 stages of grief, right? Which is denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and finally acceptance. And right now, they're just at the denial and anger stages. But according to him, it's like we'll see them go through the rest of them. But that's kind of hard for me to believe because I feel like those first 2 do a whole lot of heavy lifting for these people in general. Denial and anger seem to get them through most of what they need in their life, right? I feel like they don't often move on to the further stages. So can we really expect that where Trump is concerned? I know you're saying this just makes it worse when reality does set in on them, but these people seem pretty good at keeping reality at bay to me. So what should we really expect as they go through this process? Will they ever accept it?
It doesn't. I mean, what does that mean in this context? Because when I say will they ever accept it, I mean just admit, okay, he lost. That makes me mad, but he lost. There wasn't cheating or whatever. To me, that would be acceptance. There was no fraud. My guy lost. I don't know how else you would define acceptance of this scenario. Well, I mean, Trump, in their view, Trump can't have lost because Trump doesn't lose, right? So,
right, but that's denial, though.
The it's stolen from him thing doesn't even fit in that narrative, because if it's stolen from him, that means he got outmaneuvered, not smarted. So that doesn't fit in the worldview either. So,
but that's all just denial, though. What you just said,
yeah.
like that's all just different shades of denial for them.
Yeah, I mean they've been in denial. They've been in denial and anger since Obama was elected in 2008.
I know that's what I'm saying. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like I don't know that they're capable of going to the further steps in the stages of grief. I think that like denial and anger is sort of like that's their wheelhouse. That's where they live, you know? Like I don't see them going beyond that, let alone all the way to acceptance.
I mean, it's hard to know, man. We've never had a cult of personality around a politician in America like this. So like this isn't like a president losing an election. This is closer to how Los Angeles felt when Kobe's helicopter crashed. You know, it's like it's going to be really. I mean, I'm honestly, if you gave me this set of facts like 2 weeks ago, I would have predicted that people had gotten killed. I would have assumed that some people would have shot up a few buildings. And I know one QAnon guy tried in Philly. The cop caught him before he could get out of his car. But it's I don't know, man.
On that note, okay, does that come down to the competence that they have or what? But
I think it all
going further, this idea of the stages of grief for them and will they ever land on acceptance, I feel like a lot of that has to do, although I'd be skeptical they could get there regardless, but a lot of that has to do with whether or not Trump himself ever actually concedes, right? Which he's still, of course, refusing to do. And lately, more and more prominent Republicans have come out and said that he should, although not nearly enough. But in case he doesn't, they have people standing ready to make some shit out of it. But like related to what you just said, I would have thought someone would have been hurt by now. Mm-hmm. Militia leader Stuart Rhodes says he has men stationed outside of D.C. ready to engage in violence upon Trump's command. This guy is the leader of the Oath Keepers militia. Let me read this to you. This is from an article on Media Matters. The Oath Keepers militia, which comprises former law enforcement officials and military veterans, and is described by the Southern Poverty Law Center as, quote, one of the largest radical anti-government groups in the U.S. today. But, as their leader Rhodes has recently made clear, the organization's purpose has weirdly, for some reason, shifted recently from opposing the government to instead acting as a pro-Trump vigilante group that is willing to violently support his unjust attempts to stay in power after losing the 2020 election. So that's what we're working with here. Obviously, the threat of violence is still not out of the way, but like, I don't know, fear is probably not the right word, but how worried are you about all of this actually amounting to something?
Like with a lot of stuff on the right, you can't tell what's what they mean, what's a hustle for cash. You know, it's like, it's all wrapped up together. Like I bet you the Oath Keepers raised a ton of money after he said that. And you could at least, I mean, when you had your eye surgery a couple weeks ago, and looked like a badass. And there he's rocking an eye. I guess eye patches do make it look like a badass.
Yes, I didn't say it, but this guy wears an eye patch. There he is. Look at him, Stuart Rhodes. He wears an eye. Dude, it's honestly, this kind of sucks for me because of what I went through recently with my eyes and having the surgery. For people, just so y'all know, I had that surgery because I had double vision that needed to be surgically corrected. The only other thing that I could do when my double vision was like really pronounced or really acting up was wear a fucking eye patch. And I only did it in my house because I was like, I can't just be walking around wearing a fucking eye patch. But I had an actual medical reason for why I needed to wear an eye patch. And so that prohibits me from going in on this motherfucker to the degree that I would like to do. But I cannot believe that, you know, look, Mark, I need my eye patch, okay? This guy, He don't need his. His eyes are just lazy. His eyes are lazy. They don't work. They just want to have a government handout eye patch, whereas I need my eye patch,
Yeah. I mean, I think,
No, but it is ridiculous.
I think these guys are being really loud right now, but I do think for a lot of people, I mean, like the lack of actual violence and, it feels like a fever might have broken a little bit. Like I sent you guys the other night that screen grab about like posting in QAnon forums has gone through the floor. Like it's like it's less popular right now than a diaper fetish, the diaper fetish board on 8chan. So that's good. If people pull back.
That is good. That is good, obviously, but it also seems weird to me. Like, how do you explain that? Because I mean, I would have thought, obviously, they're all insane and it's all ridiculous, but I would have thought that they would explode with fury over the concept of their hero, the guy who is the last line of defense against this global cabal of pedophilic commies or whatever, him facing being voted out, of losing the position. I feel like you would think that would make them rage harder than anything before. So I'm glad it's fallen off a cliff, but I don't really understand why though. Like,
easy. Because this isn't. You're thinking of it in terms of like an actual political fight among humans, but there's a lot of mysticism wrapped up in here. They think the scripture foretold that Trump was definitely going to win. So if he lost,
it's one of their prophecy things.
Yeah.
But haven't they moved the goalpost on that multiple times already? Like, it seems weird that this was the thing that finally stopped them from doing that. Like, I figured they would just. When's the last time a prophet of the apocalypse has ever been deterred by the apocalypse not happening, or the opposite in this case, I guess? But whatever.
The smaller group of hardcore people is definitely going to lean into it harder. But I'm saying the larger people who casually followed a death cult about aliens and pedophiles,
I don't understand that either. I mean, I guess that's what I'm saying. I don't understand. It's wild to me that there are people who casually followed the alien pedophile death cult, or that seems odd. But I guess they were. Like, imagine dabbling in that. And then the election happens and you're like, I guess they're not drinking baby blood. Okay. Or whatever. Like, what is that? That's crazy. Obviously.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the Empire of Japan. They thought the emperor was a god who couldn't lose. So losing the war was like an existential religious problem for them. And there's even like the famous case that's the guy there's a Japanese soldier alone in the jungle didn't surrender until the 1970s, right? So there's going to be that guy in the QAnon movement, but the overall island movement.
Okay, but going off of that analogy, because yes, I've heard that before too, that basically the atomic bomb essentially killed their god, pretty much. Like, Japan culturally is almost entirely atheist, or the equivalent now, because as a direct result of that, is what I've heard. Like, it made them lose faith, which, like, of course it did. But going back to what you were saying earlier about this all making the truth harder to accept for them when it finally does set in, like, I just still can't see, and this is not the equivalent of a fucking atomic bomb. Nothing is. This election isn't, nothing is. But it's hard for me to see them being the hardcore Trump people, ever losing faith, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, or reality ever setting in, I just don't see it. And I don't know what that looks like. I guess they will all be the Japanese soldier in the jungle until the 70s, who just, Trump is still their president for the next 40 years or whatever. I don't know, but I just can't see them coming to terms with it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
So speaking of talking about him conceding, the idea of him conceding, like I said earlier, a lot of high-level Republicans have publicly come out and stated that Joe Biden is the president-elect and it needs to be accepted by Donald Trump. People like George W. Bush, Karl Rove, Mike DeWine, Maryland Governor Larry Hogan, Massachusetts Governor Charlie Baker, Maine Senator Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, Mitt Romney, Ben Sasse, and more. I feel like a lot of these are the kinds that like the Republicans that were already kind of sort of on the shit list of the hardcore people on the right already. Do you know what I mean? Like in recent years, so it doesn't really mean all that much.
Yeah. I mean, it's like Trump's already leaking that Trump doesn't mean any of this, and it's all just theater for his base, so he can be seen fighting for them. But the funny part to me is it works on liberals too. They're being driven insane by this mental image of a coup happening, and doing theater, man. Stop doing performative stuff. It's driving everyone insane. But I wish he would concede, but I don't even know what that looks like. The guy's never said I'm sorry in his life. So
never once, never said he's sorry, never admitted to being even a little bit wrong about anything. And something on this scale, I also cannot conceive of it. So I would be stunned if that happened. Let's take a brief aside here, Mark. We've never talked about this before on or off the air, and I'm just curious where you think George W. Bush rightfully falls in history with the list of like Republican presidents or whatnot. Like, what should his legacy ultimately be? And I ask the question because like George W. Bush has been, times have gone a lot easier on George W. Bush in recent years because Trump is so terrible that it makes him look so much better in retrospect, which like, I think that's objectively true as far as I'm concerned as a Democrat. He's objectively much preferable to Donald fucking Trump, but that doesn't mean that he was good. I mean, he was president when I was in college, and I hated that motherfucker. I hated him. And I'm just wondering where you think, like, how that should all ultimately shake out, you know, when history is written or whatever.
Well, I mean, I think to have an accurate take on this, we have to look forward 100 years and see if America's still standing and what shape it's in. Because I think on paper, George W. Bush was a much worse president than Donald Trump. Like Donald Trump hasn't killed nearly as many people as George W. Bush did.
Right.
Like we're still in. He turned us into we're still in wars he started. We're still living in his economy where restructured everything upward, changed all the labor laws. It's just I'm not saying Trump is good by any means, but he just more
ineffectual, right? Like he just did. Yeah, right.
He didn't have the attention span to do any worldwide calamities.
Right.
But the stuff he did do, like the hollowing out of the entire federal bureaucracy, is like, what wars are we going to be in 15 years from now if we don't have a State Department? You know what I'm saying? Like that's the stuff we don't have the information to play out. So, they're both fucking terrible. I don't know. I mean, yeah.
All right, so let's move on. Let's talk about COVID for a little bit. Not that any of our listeners need to hear it, but it is very much still a real thing. And in fact, scientists, doctors, experts have been saying this for forever, that this would be the case. But now that we're moving into wintertime, now that we're moving into colder weather, it seems to be exploding, which is how these things work. It's not surprising, but it is true. And what is that going to mean for how the country and particular states respond to this? I live in California, but I'm from Tennessee, and I know that, in Tennessee, things are still open. They're at half capacity or whatever, but we're still opened up. We seem to just be continuing to move forward with our heads in the sand, just moving forward regardless. What would it take for that to change, you think, or is there any hope of that changing? Like, is there a number we could hit that would make it fucking make a difference? And I mean, as long as for most of the rest of this winter, Donald Trump will still be the president. A lame duck president, but still, he'll still be the president for most of the rest of this winter. So is it just going to run rampant, run wild because he can't be arsed to give a fuck about it, or what is going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny because, I mean, it's not funny, but if he really did want to run and win in 2024, he should be passing huge bailout bill right now. Send everybody. He should empty the Treasury to mail us all $20,000.
Absolutely. I mean, why not?
Yeah, I mean, you gotta. What should happen is they should send everybody a couple weeks' pay, and we all stay home. I mean, actually stay home this time, not like the 40% lockdown that we had, where like professional class people like us work from home while people bring us stuff, and meatpacking plants are still operating, and some stuff's still open, and it's never. As much as people complain about lockdowns, we've been living in like this lukewarm hell for a while, where it's just like we didn't actually do it, and so we're suffering for it. And I don't know how we change. I mean, Trump doesn't have the attention span to try to govern anymore. He barely had it to begin with. Now he's lost. He just feels bad, humiliated, and he's not doing shit. Mike Pence went on vacation. He's in Florida, the chair of the coronavirus task force. Lazy fucks, man. The party of personal responsibility and hard work is the laziest sacks of shit I've ever seen in my life.
So related to that, what kind of Joe Biden and his administration are not going to be able to even attempt to do anything or even get started on doing anything until Inauguration Day, right? Because I'm talking about the transition. They're very actively obstructing it so far. A large number of high-level Republicans have also said that shouldn't be the case, that, Biden should have access to the security briefings and stuff, which is how transitions normally work. But that's not what they're doing so far. And I imagine they won't do it the entire time. So pretty much there's not going to be a transition. It's going to come down to Inauguration Day, and then Joe Biden's just going to come in from ground zero, basically, the day after, because Trump will make it the case.
That's one upside of Biden's team, is they've been in the executive branch before. They already know where the light switches in the bathrooms are and how to staff a government. So it's not like it's not we elected a straight up senator who wouldn't have any idea how to be an executive. So that's one upside of it being Biden. It's just like, this is all just so depressing, man. But like, first of all the people that said COVID would disappear the day after the election, take a fucking bow.
Yeah,
we have had record cases every day this week. Between November 1st and November 11th, cases doubled, went from 75 to 150. Hospitals are already at capacity. It's everywhere. So there are no spare doctors to move around. Like people from all over the country went to New York to help out when they had it real bad. 1 in 1,500 people in South Dakota is in the hospital with COVID, right? Utah's complaining about how their hospitals are over capacity. Doctors Without Borders is sending help to America. They usually help failed states. The only good bit of COVID news, besides we haven't talked about that. Did we talk about the vaccine on Tuesday?
No.
So I'm sure you guys have heard about it, but there's really good news on the vaccine front, because we weren't even sure that we could have a vaccine, but it looks like it's definitely possible, and it's effective, and it's the type of vaccine that everyone is working on. So it's possible we'll have like 8 or 10 versions of an effective vaccine in the coming months, and they're hoping to have 25 to 50 million doses to be able to roll out before the end of the year. All that's very good. All right. The other bit of COVID news that's good is Jared and Ivanka had to take their kids out of school after all the other parents told them to fuck off because they weren't wearing masks. So I'm not happy. I feel bad for their kids, but yeah. Just like Jared and Ivanka are stupid, but they're not that stupid. They've been not wearing a mask on camera to try to make Trump look tough and not like a hypocrite, right? Yeah. So their kids have lost access to schooling so they could stroke their dad's ego. So. Yeah,
somehow I feel like those kids will be just fine one way or another. I'm not saying they'll get a good education, depending on how you define good, but I'm sure they'll be just fine. Matt, if you're able to, buddy, start throwing some comments up there and let's see what we can get to here. this may be a larger conversation, but while Matt's looking through them, I wanted to ask Mark where you stand on the high road debate. Actually, hang on, we'll see. James Farley says people don't want a shutdown, but also won't wear a mask. How the hell do we get a handle on this otherwise? I mean, I'm not a doctor, but I don't think that's possible. Like, it's got to be one or the other or both, and there's no other way to do it.
So we appear to be the best and worst of both worlds, because if COVID was more serious, people would take it more seriously, right? If it was, it is very serious, but I'm saying if it was like if toddlers dropped dead of it, people would be super.
Yeah.
It appears to be that right on the nose of being bad enough where most people don't want to get it, but not bad enough where idiots won't still go to Daytona Beach, right?
Right.
So, but I guess it's good that the death rate's down to under one. You know, they've done a good job of cutting the death rate. The early intervention treatments are doing better, so that's good. But like the problem is, people don't want to get sick, even if you tell them it's only like a double flu. Nobody wants to get the fucking flu either. We get flu shots every year because we don't want to get the flu. Mm-hmm. So telling people to go to Dave & Buster's because they're only going to get a double flu isn't the sales pitch you think it is. So I don't think there's anything that can be done at this point. There's no posse coming over the horizon. The cavalry's not coming, right? So be safe out there. To answer your question about high road stuff, Trey.
Yeah.
I lump all this stuff in with, like, the election was just called 5 days ago. People have been waiting 4 years to get their jokes off. They're getting jokes. So I lump this in with all this yelling about cancel culture, mostly yelling about cancel culture stuff and whatever. It's like being made fun of and teased is not violence.
Yep.
You're adults. You can give out and take a little bit of thing.
100%.
Just
yeah.
It's fine.
I'm with you. It's like we're not fucking persecuting them or anything. We're taking a victory lap. Fuck them. They don't, like, the whole past 4 years has been a victory lap for them. Like, they don't, you know, like, they made shirts that said they'd rather be Russian than liberal and shit like that. And, like, they don't. Just miss me with that shit, man. Like, they've had a completely different approach to it. But yeah, you're right. Just like enjoying a victory is not the same thing as like actively trying to fuck up their way of life, which, by the way, they were doing on their side. If you are, you know, black or a minority or anything like that, you know, then they were actively fucking up your day-to-day life, which we're not in any way doing. No one's coming for their goddamn guns. None of that shit is happening.
Fucking Ben Shapiro was talking about how people were being uncivil to him. He literally sold mugs off his website that said liberal tears on it, so you could drink out of a liberal tears mug.
Right. Exactly. Yes. All right, Mark. This one's for you, Mark. Ron Gilchrist asks, "What are your thoughts about Trump's moves at the Pentagon?"
Well, so he fired the defense secretary, Mark Esper, forget his first name, and installed a loyalist, and he put Devin Nunes, his old chief of staff, who was working for the National Security Council, and his deputy undersecretary for intelligence or whatever. They just did some reshuffling. So it depends on who you ask. If you ask, you know, liberal Twitter, it's 100% a coup, right? They're going to order tanks in the streets, which that's not. I don't think that's going to happen. And then you ask the Trump supporting nationalist right. It's like Alex Jones thinks that it's because Esper wouldn't end the war in Afghanistan and Trump's bringing all the troops home by Christmas, which he may or may not do because, I mean, thank you if you do, but the third thing that people have suggested is that all the intelligence records for whatever happened in Ukraine and all that shit, like that's what the Nunes's former secretary has been obsessed with, trying to with controlling. So they might be deleting some records or doing some cover-up shit for intelligence. That
middle theory about, what he's doing is he's trying to get all the troops home by Christmas. Like you said, thank you if you do. That would be wonderful. That's so... I just literally straight up cannot believe that ultimately it would be an altruistic Christmas spirit move from Donald Trump's administration. If that happens, my mind will be fucking blown. Any of the rest of those, though, I could see.
I need to preface this by saying I can't stand anything about the dude, but there was a story that came out like a year ago, and the framing was Trump dangerously wanted to leave Afghanistan, so the whole national security team brought him to the Pentagon, put him back foot in a place where he's not empowered, to have do one of those power move meeting things where they calmly explained to him why they needed to stay in Iraq and Afghanistan, and he was like, he's basically been ordering them to figure out ways to leave for 3.5 years.
Yeah.
And it was presented as like this dangerous dummy won't listen to experts. But if the president has been telling you to do something for 3.5 years and you're just blindly ignoring him, that's fucking dangerous, right? That complains about the deep state doing. Like Obama tried to close Gitmo for 8 years and couldn't get one single prison closed. Yeah. So I mean, we fucked up by electing him, but he was president. If he says the war should end, it should end, right?
I mean, I wish the wars would end, but at the same time, I'm like, I feel like I'd be hypocritical because I'm the same guy that's like, if Trump wanted to nuke fucking wherever, nuke China, I would be like, oh, they can't let him do. I know he's the president because the president has the full carte blanche authority to just nuke whoever. That's how it works. Yeah. And the whole time I've been like, well, they can't. I know he's the president, but they can't let him do that. Which I do believe, by the way, but I guess I'm just saying because I feel that way about it, it's hard for me to sit here and be like, yeah, he's the president. If he thinks it should happen. If he thinks it for long enough, despite the fact that the subject at hand is something that I agree with you about.
No, yeah, but like the thing is, if you're a patriotic martyr, what you do is you stand up and take your lumps. You make your case publicly, right? That's the thing that sucked. I mean, Edward Snowden lost a lot of credibility by fleeing to Russia, right? So like there are people like the guy who stole the Pentagon Papers. Like people have done patriotic sedition before. If Trump orders you to launch a nuke and you think it's the wrong move, you stand up and say, "No, sir, I will not do that," and then you go testify in front of Congress and make your case, right? So like if Mark Esper doesn't want to leave Afghanistan, he can resign in protest and go testify in public about why. But this is not the way to do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I mean, you said there's a Russian guy. I just Googled it because I remember hearing it before. His name's Stanislav Petrov, who no one knows that name, but this dude might have literally saved the entire world.
Thank you, comrade.
Yes, because it was a situation like we were just saying. He basically got, as far as he was concerned, he got an order to launch nuclear weapons, to basically start World War III, and just decided to dismiss them as a false alarm, which they were, but he had no way of knowing that. But he just did it because he refused to end the entire world. And all of Trump's presidency, I've hoped that whoever is in the equivalent position for our government would do the same thing if Donald Trump tried to nuke the world, because I've been very afraid that he would nuke the world or attempt to. So, yeah it happens.
So I don't remember the story a couple of years ago about the Air Force guys who were in charge of manning our nuclear missile silos, got caught cheating on their tests to get approved to get in their jobs and being drunk on duty. So I'm saying is we might be doing a worse job maintaining our nuclear arms operations. We might be doing worse than a failed Soviet state. they still run on old MS DOS. Like they use floppy disks in our nuclear fucking weapon systems.
Yes, no, you're right. Yeah, just because it's like that's how it was when it started, and why change anything? That's the way we've always done stuff. It'd be hard, Mark. It'd be hard to change that stuff. Anyway, Robert Rhea says the orange-stained king is going to burn the place down if he can. Yeah, yes, I wouldn't put it past him. But I also think it's possible that he'll just like be dejected enough to just kind of, and also he's so incompetent in so many ways that he might just kind of fuck off in his sadness without successfully pulling off any kind of hugely detrimental coup type maneuver before he does. Not that he wouldn't. Not that I put it past him. I just think that we might be able to avoid that.
I mean, the level Trump's operating at is petty scams. That's what he does. It's what he knows, right? It's what he's good at. So like installing himself as a dictator with a passionate fan base is not really his wheelhouse. What is in his wheelhouse is, say, installing loyalists to the Defense Department so he can fast track weapon sales to friendly regimes whose governments are going to loan him money after he invests in his properties after he's out of office, right? That makes more sense than other stuff. Like they just sold a bunch of high level weapons to Yemen, I think. No, sorry, to Qatar to use in Yemen. That whole peace deal he announced a couple of weeks ago essentially was just a cover for this. And so if you told me he's rolling, the DOD's rolling tanks out in the streets to keep up in office, that's probably not happening. But if you told me they're selling stealth bombers to Azerbaijan so they can finish genocide in Armenia, I'd be like, yeah, that sounds about
okay.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, since you brought it up, because I'll admit my ignorance up top about here and leave that up there, Matt. I'll get to it in just a second. But you said you said the recent peace deals were just like a cover for making these big arms sales in Yemen or whatever. Mm-hmm. Because I have seen people on the internet, conservatives on the internet, tried to make like a reasoned argument for Trump prior to the election, and one of them had to do with his like resume in the Middle East. Like, we've got unprecedented peace deals. He's bringing troops home and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And I have a million other arguments against him, but as far as that one goes, I don't really have much to say. But I'm not surprised to hear that it's just a cover for some military contractor profit pocket lining stuff. But you're saying that's what it was?
Yeah, I mean they opened some direct flights between like Jerusalem and UAE. I mean there's some like opening trade stuff. I don't see how selling weapons to, maybe it makes them feel safer relative to Israel because Israel has a very strong military. I don't know, man. But all this stuff is like, anybody that tells you anything about the Middle East, you can just ignore it because nothing makes sense.
Right? Yeah.
It's seriously like an 8-sided shooting war with a mix of 40 different alliances, and we're partnered with both sides against the middle. Nothing makes sense.
Scott Bryan says Cohen, I assume that's Michael Cohen, predicts he leaves for Christmas and doesn't return. I hadn't heard that, but it wouldn't surprise me if he went. What does leaves mean? Like goes like Mar-a-Lago? Because if he went to Mar-a-Lago tomorrow and didn't come back, it wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
Also, like, who's going to do the fucking Christmas at the White House? Because it's not going to be Melania, Mark. She's not doing the fucking Christmas, not this year. Well, someone else can do the fucking Christmas. Let Jill Biden do the fucking Christmas. Oh, they won't let her in the door. I don't care. She has Mexicans, right? Let her Mexicans do the fucking Christmas. So.
Did you see the First Lady's office? They put out their Christmas announcement. It literally said, "This is please come enjoy First Lady Melania Trump's final Christmas in the White House." It's like, so Melania's conceded.
Really? No, I didn't see that. So that's what I'm not at all surprised by that, though. There's so many great clips out there of Melania this is not me taking Melania's side in any way, because she also wore the jacket that says, I don't give a fuck, do you? It's not what it said, but it is what it said, so fuck her. But there's so many great clips out there of her, like, just not fucking with Trump at all, like him just trying to hold her hand or whatever, and she don't want nothing to do with it. She's so clearly disgusted by him, but that's what you get when you marry a fucking rich orange toad. God damn it, it's your own fault, but still, I enjoy him.
She had her own money is the thing, like not as much as him, obviously, or whatever access to the credit he has, but like the dude must be charming, right? 101.
Well, dude, man, I don't like. It's a specific type of charm that works on a specific type of person or something. Because I'm clearly immune to it, because I could not be more revolted by him. But dude, he's charmed the fucking pants off of millions of people in this country and around the world, including people who, and I've talked about this before, I would have never believed in a million years would be Donald Trump fans. But he got them.
Have you ever seen?
Oh, Kathy Mims says, "Trey, you're such a great Melania." Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yes.
Have you seen
a pretty boy?
Have you ever seen a
54.
picture of her dad, Trey?
Melania's dad? No.
I just sent one to Matt if you can throw it up. He looks a lot like Trump. So she might have some daddy
Oh
issues.
my God.
Yeah.
No, I'd never seen that before, but you have fucked me up with this because, yeah, you're right. He does. Well, that's unfortunate for the world.
They're about. I think they're about the same age too. So you got something going on.
All right. Well, I'm still having fun out here in America. They ain't fucked everything up just yet. So we'll see what they do between now and next Tuesday, because that's all the time we have for this edition of Evening Skews. But we'll be back next week and we'll continue having a good time. So I'm Trey. That's Mark. Give it up for producer Matt, everybody, and see y'all soon.
Later.
You love you. Bye.